Hey guys, and welcome to the Diablo Herald episode number 18. We have a pretty cool episode ahead of us. We are going to be talking about our thoughts of the patch 1.0.4, and we're also going to be talking about Jay Wilson's apology letter. While that doesn't really interest me all that much, there's a lot of hints in there for some stuff coming up in the future content to the game and that sort of thing. So we'll talk about that. Today we have with us Highlander, as always. How you going, Highlander?
Good, good.
That's good. And Ziggy, how you doing, Ziggy?
Good, thanks, mate, as always.
Good. And we have a very special guest, which you can't see because we haven't set up the webcam, but it is Azure. How you going?
Good.
Yeah. Awesome. So, first, I thought we might just start with Azure. Do you want to just tell us a bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. I run the Diablo Inc. Gamers market site, and I also write for Inc. Gamers as well for Diablo 3. And yeah, I've got a lot to do with the economy and that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And you do the D3 Markets website?
Yeah.
Cool.
That's right. I'm the webmaster of Diablo3markets.com.
Yep. Cool. Awesome. All right. So I'll get into this Jay Wilson apology letter. I'm sure most people know about all that stuff that happened, but we're not really going to talk about it. I'm sure you can find out by Googling it. But there were a few hints in his letter about some upcoming things that are going to be in the game. So one of the things he said was he felt that they were overly cautious with item drops, and he said that if that hasn't been fixed in this patch, they're going to continue to address that problem. So does anyone have any ideas what they might be doing, and can anyone speculate as what they might do, if there is any problems? I saw you smile there, Highlander.
Well, speculating is something we should be pretty good at by now, that's all. I'll let someone else take the lead on this one, though.
Well, with the
Well,
item drops, I think we'll start with like what's changed in 1.0.4, which is mainly the increased drop rates for rares and blue magic items of white mobs, which seems to have made a big difference. I must admit, personally, I feel like it's made a huge difference, and it's a massive step in the right direction in terms of item drops. So I'd be very surprised if this isn't where it needs to be, as in where this patch has put the game in terms of drop rates and things like that, where it needs to be. I don't know. I'd like legendaries to drop more, but that's just a personal thing.
Yep. Yeah, I probably should have phrased the question in a better way. Like, are you happy with how they are, and do you think that they probably, if they will do any changes? How about you, Azure? Are you happy with how the drops are at the moment?
Yeah, look, the changes have been definitely a step in the right direction. To sort of answer the question you sort of asked before on what I think what they might be expanding on in future patches, I think there's room for, because if you noticed in the 104 patches, particularly the weapons were now, they didn't really have to be eye level 63 like they used to be to have good damage. Now you can sort of get, reasonably good damage weapons all the way from eye level 60 to 63, which is huge because, I remember when every time you'd sort of find a bunch of weapons, you'd just sort of mouse over them, and if they were anything below sort of eye level 62, you'd almost, know that it was crappy. So you kind of, it ruined the experience a bit there. I think if I was to guess what is coming, I would say that they're probably going to expand that sort of concept across everything, all the rare items. So things like affixes and that sort of stuff, I think they're going to probably start allowing better affixes to drop in the earlier sort of levels. So, instead of, getting the top, 200 dexterity on chest being rolling from 63, they're probably going to expand that to sort of drop all the way to from 50. Obviously, the chances will be a lot lower, but the fact that you can potentially get that is a pretty good psychological effect on the player. It makes it a bit more interesting, especially for players who are leveling to Inferno, not necessarily at Inferno yet, because that's something is a big problem at the moment, I think.
Yep. Yeah, having a very small chance to have something even overpowered, technically overpowered,
Mm.
can make the game pretty exciting, I suppose.
Well,
I mean, look at Diablo 2. You could find stuff in Nightmare that was, potentially the best item, one of the best items in the game.
Yeah, in the patch, what was it, 1.0.3, they took a big step towards that and allowing us to be able to get eye level 63s in as early as Act 1 Inferno, and
that's right.
eye level 62s as early as Hell. So that's definitely their trajectory, or the path that they seem to be on. I'd prefer trying to keep the eye level structure kind of consistent with what they've been doing. I like what they did for weapons, just because they have that one stat, and that's just a pure weapon stat, and you're never going to get it on anything else. And your whole build just is impacted so greatly by that one stat as well, that I thought for items it had to be done. But for other items, it's really not just that one stat that's important, it's the mix of them. And if you got an eye level, that's why eye level 62s can still be great, and eye level 61s can still be great for those other slots. So I'd prefer they just are able to maybe trickle that down a little bit further, because I absolutely get with what you're saying in terms of having that small chance that the chest that you click on or the vase that you break could potentially give you a best in slot, kind of as early as possible, even if it's way less likely than winning the lottery.
Mm-hmm.
Just to know that chance theoretically exists is great.
Yep.
Yeah.
And very Diablo-y.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny because the one legendary I picked up since the patch was actually off a weapon rack, so I'm glad that they've not just left it how it was. They've changed that a little bit. Cool. Anything else to say on that? Yeah, we're gonna.
Yeah, it's kind of had a funny effect, the changes, especially to the changes to 2 weapons and things like that, and like the eye level 61, 62 change. People are feeling like that every drop's the best weapon they've ever found in the game now, and it's like the best weapon in the game. I just found a best in slot weapon and stuff like that. Pretty much every drop is like that now, and I don't know if that'll wear off, but that's like obviously a side effect of the changes and that. But it's sort of just shifted the whole spectrum up. So I wonder if in a couple of weeks whether we'll be stuck with the same problem there. I think that there's probably still some more changes that needs to happen to affixes to make them a bit more interesting and a bit more worthwhile. Especially, Azur were talking about bleed earlier on and how they missed that on rares and things like that. So a few more improvements to be made there.
Yep. Yeah, I think with that, there's 2 differences. One, obviously, that the items are different. The second thing is that the difficulty is different, so the games become a little bit easier and the items are better. So while that, it may just shift the level of where the stats are at, the game's also easier, so it's easier to acquire items to complete the content, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Any other comments on the item drops? Have you guys found what legendaries have you found anyway, out of interest? Any?
I'll go. I want to go.
Yeah.
No, it's not that great. I got a nail biter, which is a level 60 one-handed mace, which had about 900 DPS and no socket, and was very very underwhelming broadly. But it was my second ever, so I felt that drop rate pretty early because I haven't been playing. Well, I'm never playing as much as I'd like, but I wasn't playing quite that much in the last week. That was cool, but yeah, I'm also it's hard for me to actually give a fair comparison because I'm now pretty much farming 2 acts ahead of where I was. So
yeah,
it's a bit confusing. I'm trying to get a fair analysis point of view.
Yeah. This patch, so much changed in one go in this patch. It's hard to really single individual things out. It's not like other patches where we've been like, now this thing's changed. How has that impacted the game? But now all of a sudden, everything's changed. So it's pretty wacky. Trying to gauge what's happened.
Yep. Cool.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So the second point in his letter, he said that there needs to be more variety of things to do in the game. So that's something that they recognised. The next major patch will have more to add than just the PvP. So yeah, they haven't really said anything about that, and he said that they will be talking about it as soon as they have an idea exactly of how they're going to do it. But that's a fun one to speculate about, I think. Who wants?
Yeah, I mean that could be anything.
Yeah, there's a lot of things it could be. Yeah. Is there
it almost sounds like it's going to be a sort of new game system just by the sort of the way he's sort of comparing it to PvP. You sort of gives the impression that it might be something as sort of significant as PvP is.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he would sort of mention, because obviously every patch has all kinds of miscellaneous changes. To actually single it out like that does make me think that there's some pretty big things or coming up.
Yep. Have you had any ideas of what you'd like to see, or?
Yeah, look, again, this ties into another point that he made in his post, and that's regarding the difficulty of the game. I would personally like to see the difficulty to be closer to sort of the feeling that Diablo 2 gave, which is, it's not really about overcoming a challenge. It's more about kill speed and efficiency. So, instead of people, wiping on champion packs and getting frustrated for minutes on end, dying from being killed in 1 second flat by some crazy affix champion. I prefer the game to not have so much of that and have more about the difference between a very good player and a very not so good player or low geared character is the fact that you can kill things a lot quicker and you can just blitz through things in a more efficient way. And to me, that's enough for to justify the treasure hunt and all that sort of stuff. I don't think they necessarily need to make the game so barring in terms of killing the players and other more frustrating avenues that they're sort of doing at the moment. And I think they also agree with that. I mean, every patch since release has shown a reduction in some kind of difficulty, one way or the other. I mean, this patch more significantly reduced some of the combinations that monsters can get, the affix combinations, and not to mention, that the increased powered items also has that sort of passive effect of making content a little bit easier.
Yep.
So I think, if I was to guess, difficulty is, something that they're probably going to be looking at tweaking, ongoing from now, and hopefully, my hope is that it gets closer to something to what the D2 model was like.
Yep. Yeah, it's... Sorry, go, Highlander.
All right. Yeah, well, it's interesting because, when you talk about tying it back to D2 and, trying to get a fair comparison so hard because, there's they're trying to be something for everyone, of course. So we've got a new difficulty now. I mean, I remember the day Inferno was announced. If you actually played Hell difficulty all the time, whilst you wouldn't have access to the best items in the game, and that's not like earlier versions of Diablo when you play Hell, in a lot of senses it's really not very hard. And Diablo 2 was never really very hard. And we've got this. If the game stopped at the end of Hell, then it wouldn't be too dissimilar. It would be easier than the previous games, but it wouldn't be that dissimilar. But now we have this whole extra difficulty, which is, and again, was originally designed with a totally different structure in mind to what we're used to. We're used to, just playing that last bit of content, and that's again the way Hell was built. You can only get your best level items in Hell in Act 4 of Hell difficulty. So that's in some senses, if you just try to imagine a Diablo without Inferno difficulty, that's kind of what it could be like. But of course, you can't have a stretch goal, to use business speak. You can't have, or like HR speak, you can't have a stretch goal or a stretch target for people to reach without everyone wanting to reach it. So I don't know how they're going to manage to strike that balance between having that, that point where it's actually difficult and the point where it's, anyone can do it, and it's, really just more about that, like you're saying, that timing and that efficiency.
I guess the thing that sort of hints to what they're sort of going at in that post is where he mentions the player's X command that was in Diablo 2. And it almost looks like he was sort of referring to a system that would be very similar to that. So that's probably the biggest hint we've gotten from that post in terms of what their plans are on that subject. So it's quite interesting to sort of compare what they could possibly put in to replace the player's X command and what effect it will have on the game.
Yeah, and they'd have to have it impact loot like it did in D2, which would be interesting to see how that went.
Yeah, I think one of the things he mentioned was I guess they'd like it to be where players can actually make it difficult if they're the type of person that wants it to be really difficult, and make it easy if they're just, farming or whatever. So, yeah. I think in the ideal world, you can basically choose how you want to play the game, So, yeah. I had something else, but I forgot it was, so...
So
you got anything,
I'll
Ziggy?
carry on with I'll carry on with the difficulty discussion, because I don't think it's so much a case of reducing difficulty or changing the difficulty. I guess changing the difficulty is changing the nature of the difficulty, where the difficulty is in the game. Like, I'm saying difficulty a lot. I'll continue saying difficulty. But I think the difficulty in the game needs to be from the the optimization and the finding viable builds for Inferno and that sort of thing, like finding what clears mobs faster and having a bit of theory crafting. I think the game's hugely about theory crafting and sifting through gear and figuring out what the best in slot for you is and things like that. I personally like difficulty that's from mechanical difficulty as well, but I don't really think that's a big part of this game. Like, there's parts in it, where you're dodging certain things and stuff like that, and if you're playing a ranged character, kiting and things like that. But it's not the main part of the game. So, I don't know. I feel like the main game, like the normal through Inferno, is getting there in terms of that difficulty, and maybe they'll make a few more changes. But in terms of this extra content thing, I'd like to see something else that's separate from that main game that has its own nature of difficulty. Obviously, PvP will have that in the difficulty of matching up with other players, and that's going to be a huge mechanical increase in difficulty, because you're going to have to be dodging and doing all sorts of different things to compete with other players that are as good or better than you.
Yep.
But I guess in terms of this other thing, I don't know what they're going to be adding, whether it's going to be a new type of difficulty or just a continuation of the main game's style of difficulty, as in something like a randomized level generation system or something like that for dungeons or something.
Yep.
I think we'll see something like that.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see. Well, one of the things we said way back was more event-style things. I think that's a really good challenge to put into the game. That's an optional challenge. So, yeah, that's something where people can choose whether they want to take it on or not. Something like the Jar of Souls, like, they could really ramp up I guess, even just the length of it, and make it really just like a defense, style thing that goes for 10 minutes or something, and that'd be heaps of fun. Something like that would be awesome. So it's almost like boss fights are a challenging event. Something like a Jar of Souls or other types of events would be really cool.
Sort of PvE arena or something.
Yeah, almost like scenarios type gameplay.
Yep.
And we keep hearing these calls for ladder systems as well, and I don't know if I'm the only one, but I actually hated the ladder system in Diablo 2 with the ladder resets per se. Yeah, I know, right? But I hated building something, as in a level 99 character, and then having something arbitrary that's outside of my control, like a date, come along, and then having something that's now lesser, diminish my achievement, because now I have a level 99, sure, but it's not a current level 99. And sure, that's the thing for everyone else, but I know for me personally, it just felt like if I was building something, then it would eventually be wasted and it would become inferior. And that was just a sucky feeling for me. And I know that they've said something not too dissimilar in the past. There's also the real money auction house as well, and if they were to have a ladder system like they did in Diablo 2, where everyone who's on an old character and an existing character gets shoved aside, and you have now a separation between legacy characters and new ones. If they were to do that, then anyone who had spent money on items would have that same feeling that I did, except that they didn't just part with time, they parted with money, and that can be lousy. So, like, to have ladders is potentially really tough, but if they've got PvP, and PvP's got some matchmaking, and please have a ladder that people can see, then that would be one way to do it. And of course, you're going to know if you just win all the damn time. And at the very, very top, people are going to work out who's incredibly good. But on the other hand, if they built in some of these other things like the endless dungeon, or the survival mode, Jar of Souls, whatever it would be, if they could just build in ladders for something like that as well, you would have multiple sources for this competition that wasn't just PvP, but could be really fun, and have certain people in the community just trying to be as good at that as possible. You'll get the videos on YouTube of people who are incredible at it, and all stuff like that. It'd be exciting and interesting. I hope there's something like that, and I hope it's got some competitive element. We don't need replays. It's not going to be an esport, but just help us out with competing with each other.
Yep. Yeah, that'd be cool. Competitive PvP is definitely something that I'd like to see, but we'll see what happens, I guess. So the last thing you put in this post or letter was about the auction house. So he said that the auction house can short-circuit the natural pace of item drops, making the game feel less rewarding for some players. He also said that they're not really sure how to fix the problem at this stage, but they're discussing it constantly, so there eventually will be some kind of change. I'm not sure what that would be. They obviously don't know what it would be. Do you guys think that the AH is a problem? Do you think that it takes away from the fun of the game?
I think it's a problem. I think it's more of a problem because of its incompatibility with the item system. Within itself, an auction house is great because it's convenient, and it's it provides unlimited items to players with interesting stats and all that stuff. But the problem is it's incompatible for many reasons with a Diablo item system. Mainly because of the fact that Diablo items are really about very, very prestigious loot that's very, very powerful. Now, when all of a sudden you sort of bring in this mechanic where you can see every item, you've got access to that item at any time, it's a pretty big psychological effect on the player. It sort of diminishes the epicness, I guess, of items, of good items, when you go on the auction house and you can see 500 win forces, and very different to Diablo 2, where if you just saw an Amazon, come into your game with a win force, it was like, a very, very rare occasion. It's like, wow, that person's got win force, and it's like, that's awesome. Whereas, the problem, I guess, with D3 is we're so everything's available at the sort of, you're within the hand grasp of everything, so it almost trivializes the entire item system, and that's setting aside all the problems with pacing and difficulty and all that stuff, because obviously this was probably one of the most complained about problems in the early days of Diablo 3 coming out, which was if you don't use the auction house, you can't sort of play the game properly, you can't progress properly. So it was that argument of the auction house is required to play and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's more about the auction house as a system being incompatible with the way a Diablo item system works, and that's the main problem.
Yep.
I think what you were saying there is spot on, and it also builds from the whole concept of you've got that some people could just be parting with money to get there, but essentially you've got this system and it's so easy, and then and I've mentioned this before on the cast as well, once you get to those higher levels and you've got some pretty solid gear, if you're using the auction house for getting upgrades, then your only upgrades are going to come from effectively farming a whole lot and incremental gains towards that goal, but not in a trackable way, but in a kind of a randomized way. And you'll do your farming runs, and then you'll find an item, and it's like, okay, that's another 10k, or that's another 100k, or whatever, and that'll help me towards my 100 mil goal of saving for this particular upgrade. And the good feeling that you get of getting that item is really like so disconnected with you farming that it's just, it's terrible. And most of your current gear, I know none of my current gear is actually self-found, or maybe one item perhaps is self-found. So when I'm never going to have that feeling of the next good item could be coming around the corner. The best I've got is a good item could be coming around the corner, and then I'll be able to sell that. And if I get a good deal, then I can combine that with my existing funds to buy an upgrade that's marginal.
Yep.
So that's not nearly as cool feeling.
Yep. So I can't even think of what possible changes they could make to an auction house to change that issue.
Yeah, I don't personally have a major issue with the auction house. I really enjoy player-to-player economies in games, but as Azure said and as Highlander said, that it's sort of not a good match for the type of game like that it is. It's two things from other games that have been sort of mishmashed together, but I don't know, I can't see a Diablo 3 without it. Sort of what you were just saying a while ago.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, I guess with that we will go on to some, more thoughts of post-patch. What I thought we'd start with is some discussion on the different classes. So we probably can't really comment on the wizard class because none of us plays a wizard.
Poor wizards.
Really.
Poor wizards.
So sorry to all those wizards out there.
We're sorry, guys.
But we cover all the other classes, so maybe we'll start with the Demon Hunter, because I know that Azure has Demon Hunter. I've got a level 58 Demon Hunter, or something like that.
I'm Demon Hunter too.
And Ziggy plays Demon Hunter as well. So, given the changes, and I won't go over the changes because we did that last week, and you can
just
find
talking
them
about
pretty
what we
easily.
liked.
But how did it actually feel? How did those changes feel? Was there anything that didn't feel as good as you thought it would, or that felt really good?
I'm going to say the damage, area of effect damage abilities on Demon Hunter are now pretty much spot on, exactly what I want to see. Except maybe Trail of Cinders is a bit OP. It is insane. It is insanity. It is a ridiculous skill that will destroy PvP if it's left in its current state. So we'll see. I fully expect a buff, but I don't care. I'm building my character around it because it is such a fun skill to use. You basically go all tanky. You can have even a pretty low DPS weapon and just bowl through mobs, and it'll melt elites in maybe like 2 volts. It just melts them. It's insane.
Yep.
1500% damage. Weapon damage over 3 seconds for anyone who doesn't know the actual numbers, but that's pretty ridiculous.
So that's the rune that leaves a fire trail in your wake of Vault. Is that right? Just for anyone that doesn't know. Cool. Well, that's surprising because I wouldn't have. I mean, obviously it's a high number, but that's usually not the type of skill that does a lot of damage.
Yeah, I saw it before the patch, and I thought, whoa, that's a huge number. I'm like, maybe it won't play out like it looks like it's going to play out, but I was thinking it's still going to be really good for PvP. But yeah, it was ridiculous. As for the other general changes, I felt like a lot of the other abilities feel a lot better, especially multi-shot, which I used a lot before the patch, but it was kind of bad. But it feels a lot better now.
Cool. How about you, Azure? What do you think of the Demon Hunter? Have you played it much?
Well, the interesting thing is I only hit level 60 after 104, but in terms of, I'll sort of comment on the Cinders thing. It's pretty funny because they changed a lot of the other Vault runes, but the other one, which is also a damage one, is just terrible compared to Cinders. Like it's the one where it sort of backflips and does 4 shots for 70% weapon damage, and I'm thinking, how did they not see that Trail of Cinders is at least 10 times better than that? It's pretty so low. Which idiot would go for the other one when they can get that? But anyway, apart from that, it's a pretty. I do like the class changes. Again, my main's a barb, so I guess it's funny. I haven't actually played the barb, really at all since the patch. But from what I've read in the changes, they all seem about right. I think there's probably a little bit more to go in terms of mechanical changes rather than just numbers changes. A lot of rune effects could probably use a bit of sort of mechanizing, I guess, if that's the right word to use. And Yeah, but overall, I think, I mean, for me, this patch was all about the item system and difficulty and all that sort of stuff. So the class changes were just a nice benefit, but it wasn't really what I was looking forward to. The legendaries was definitely the thing that, I was most looking forward to, because I knew that it would definitely make the item hunt a lot more fun now that I can actually be excited about finding something.
Yep.
So in terms of class changes, yeah, look, they're nice, but, I really think they weren't that bad to begin with. So
Right.
there's much worse things out there.
Yep. Okay. So, yeah. So do you think that it seems like it's really the difficulty that restricts the skill selection rather than what skills are
Definitely, yeah.
powerful? Yes. Cool. Well, anyway, I guess we'll go on to the other classes then, because I know Highlander's got a lot of opinions on the Witch Doctor. So
No.
take it away with the Witch Doctor. How did it go?
So just to completely contradict Azura's opinion there, I was most excited about the class changes going into this.
Well, as a witch doctor, I don't blame you.
Yeah. The casting animation improvement is really nice. I can't stress that enough. The game just feels more fun to play.
Yep.
And
So for anyone,
that's a really great way to do it as well. So I'm really happy with that.
So for anyone that doesn't really want to play, anyone that doesn't play Witch Doctor, can you explain like exactly what that means? The casting animation thing.
It's just pretty much your attack speeds just straight up increased.
Yep.
The length of the animation has been changed, and considering that it's really hard to tank as a witch doctor. You're not a melee class.
Mm-hmm.
For you to be able to kite as a witch doctor was really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a skill that functions like bolt or like teleport per se. We only really have the one escape skill. So that's also our quick movement out of their skill. It is the best escape skill. This is Spirit Walk I'm referring to. So it's better than I say smoke screen, because you can path right through walls and anything.
Yep.
But I don't have a second slot that I can use for something like a vault, which just is that. I mean, that's obviously you're really kiting at a very disciplined, expensive way if you're using Vault in that manner. But just for us to kite at all was really hard, especially with something like Bears being a focus of how people played. Goes to this huge animation of like,
yeah, right.
And it just was so slow and just was yucky. But even skills that were meant to be primary attack skills, like the corpse spiders,
Mm-hmm.
was just a slow animation. It just wasn't as fun to use. So that was my simplest, but simplest pleasure out of this patch.
Mm-hmm.
But everything that they did for Vision Quest was just amazing. Just pretty much axing the way Vision Quest was used, and has nothing to do with cooldowns anymore. It's great. Pets are amazing. I'm running a pet / bears build in Act 3 when I was before really struggling in Act 2.
Yep.
I was about halfway through Act 2, and it was really quite difficult to progress.
Mm-hmm.
And then just logged in, just started smashing stuff, ripping it up left, right, and center.
Yep.
So that was really cool. Pets just feel more fun now. What else is there? I could go on all day. The Jars of Spiders is something that I'm using now, and it's something that I always wanted to use, which is really cool because you just chuck spiders at stuff. Like, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it was really just useless pre-patch.
Mm-hmm.
One of the signs where I don't know if it's necessarily a sign of whether they've done such a really good job, or if it's more of a sign of we don't know what to do with ourselves yet as witch doctors.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a Reddit thread that actually that had one for each class, and it compared the most used skills from the top 25 players for each class. And for the witch doctors, it was dead set even on your primary attack skills, on fire bats, on plague toads. Like, it was like literally
Awesome.
like 4. It was just absolutely perfectly spread even.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure part of that is we just don't know what to do yet.
Yep.
but I definitely think an element was just good balance. So they've done
It's
a
good.
great.
It's good that not one's obviously better than the others. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
not immediately, obviously. Anyways,
Mm.
so I'm using corpse spiders with the Widowmaker's rune, so I get some mana back, and that allows me to, and that interacts with Vision Quest, which gives me more regen, and then between that mana steal and my height and regen, I just cast bears like I used to be able to, but now I've got pets that are around me that aren't instantly dead, so I can get up to those packs and use the bears, which is cool. But yeah, and there's lots of other little changes, but it's just been so fun for a Witch Doctor now, and the only downside is now the game's really easy, which for me is a bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
Comparatively, really.
Yep. Cool. All right. So Azil's got to head off because he's got other things to attend to.
See you,
Sorry,
Zua.
guys.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for
Yeah,
having me.
thanks for
It's lots
coming.
of fun.
It's
Okay,
good to have you on.
I'll catch you guys later.
All right. See you, mate.
Okay, bye.
Now I will probably have to fix up these cameras as soon as he exits the call. See
The
if
caller's still alive though. He didn't hang up the call.
Better than I do.
Oh, well, that's good. Okay, cool.
He cut the stream.
That should make it
All
easy.
right. Let's talk
Maybe.
about stuff while he does things.
Then.
no,
No, there it goes.
And
Alright.
we're back.
I'll fix
Cool.
this up.
You want to fix up the cameras and we'll talk.
Cool. Go for it.
Oh, we're
So
not back yet.
I guess my okay, we're back.
No, we're not back yet.
Oh, sorry. I'm still broadcasting. Yeah,
Yeah, you look like you're broadcasting.
I am.
We're just out of, but we can
It
talk.
keeps going on and off though. You'll miss it
Yeah,
in our video recording.
The cameras are all stuffed up, but I can fix it.
That's fine. Well, I'll just start ranting, and if no one hears it, then that's all right. I heard it.
Rant away.
Yeah, and that kind of leads on to a bit of a. Actually, Randa had one good point in chat, which is that we've still got a major gear dependency on regeneration as witch doctors, which I don't know if I necessarily agree with. I think everyone at that peak sort of level has kind of got a dependency on something. For a lot of people, it's crit damage. So I think we should perhaps consider ourselves a little bit lucky that it's not a dependency on the same thing that everybody else has a dependency on. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you're always going to have that one stat that everyone's chasing. In fact, I think that there's a lot of builds that involve some different things for witch doctors. So, for example, I know that there's always been those guys at the outside bit who were stacking crowd control effects on their gear, and because there's so many different skills with the witch doctor that have little pokey attacks and a number of attacks per second, you can CC all the enemies quite a bit and have a significant impact. So that's like one stat that's probably better for us as witch doctors than anyone else. But also, what was the other one that I was thinking of? God damn it! No, the point had an end. There are other stuff. Oh, that's right. It's the radius for picking up health globes and gold, and there are builds that are revolving around that as a stat as well, which no one else cares about at all.
That's a cheap stat to revolve around.
Yeah, exactly. And also the bleed damage is also a little bit better for witch doctors than it is for most, or at least some builds, just because of all those little pokey attacks. So I think we do all right. I don't think we've got anything to complain about there. That's my contrarian view. All right, but my overall rant was just about difficulty, and I'm one of those people that really wanted Inferno to be super hard, and I wanted, for those of us who have spent the time getting through to the very end, to be able to have other people go, "Oh wow, you got that achievement, damn." I suppose now it's going to be, you got to you got to Paragon level 100 or something, you're definitely going to have that impact. But it's nice to have something that isn't just time based, where skill is actually a factor as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
But
definitely.
and then I get the other point of view where people felt like they were just hitting a wall. Being an achievement grinder, I'm used to hitting walls and just working slowly till I overcome them. But perhaps it's maybe a combination of a lack of other content as well. A lack of content when you kind of hit a wall. You can't go, oh, this sucks. All right, I'm going to go play these types of games.
Yeah.
I'm going to go do the endless dungeon because that's fun, and I can just I'm still playing Diablo.
Mm-hmm.
I know in StarCraft it'll be a case of people will get sick of being smashed on ladder and so I'm just going to go play some stupid customs. We don't have that sort of function.
Yeah, we need something equivalent to customs, don't we?
Yeah.
Mm.
Cool. That's a good point.
Paragon levels?
Yeah.
I think, can we cover any of the classes?
Well, we can't talk about really Barbarian now because unfortunately Azur was gone. So, sorry about that. But in terms of the monk, I was pretty excited about some of the changes for the monk. I was really excited to see that they'd up the damage on Seven-Sided Strike and Wave of Light in particular. Unfortunately, they're not as powerful as I would have hoped, I suppose. Seven-Sided Strike is good, but it's just got such a long cooldown. It's really hard to, keep that on the bar because it's hard to compare it to something like Blind or what's the other one that I use? I can't remember. Sweeping Wind. Yeah. Wave of Light is a really awesome skill. I love Wave of Light so much. It's just got a lot of utility in it with the knockback and the AoE damage. If it's like a lot of small enemies, it just does so much damage. But yeah, I don't know if I would use it. I mean, I'm using it now just because it's so much fun, but I'll probably get to a point where I'll have to get a bit more serious and have to switch it back to something like Sweeping Wind. Exploding Palm I haven't used a lot, so
I've been hearing good things about it. Like, I've seen a fair few people using it, so I must be doing a bit better now.
yeah.
And people doing some wacky videos with it as well, getting the most amount of mob kills with exploding palms and things like that.
Yeah, well, that video was interesting because I've actually seen a video like that before with Exploding Palm. So yeah. Anyway, cool. Yeah, so I guess we'll go on to Paragon levels. What do you guys think of Paragon levels?
just put that out there like that. Well, I think there was three things wrong with the game in my eyes, and the legendary and itemization fixed one, and I think Paragon levels fixes another. So I think it adds a purpose to the game. Eventually, the purpose is sort of going to run out, but then it ends up fixing its own other problem with like fixing the issue of magic fine gear swapping and things like that. So it's rewarding, and I don't think every player is logically going to get to level 100 Paragon because of the amount of time investment. I did some research, and the quickest pretty much you can get there is like 300 hours, maybe 200 hours with a Leoric signet as well. So somewhere around 200 hours is still a fair bit of gameplay for one class to get to 100. So I don't know. I think it's really good though. It's really rewarding, and a lot of people seem to be really enjoying it.
Yep. Cool. How about you, Highlander?
Oh, I think it's great. I think ZiggyD's hit the nail on the head that it's definitely fixed one aspect of what was some people's frustrations, and it is more fun to play now with Paragon levels. So I love it. It's great. It's not a solution to everything, but we're getting there one step at a time.
Yep. Yeah, I'm pretty happy that it's slowly going to be taking the magic fine gear out of the equation. I'm sure there's lots of people that don't like that, but I like the idea of concentrating on really just getting, the items that you need rather than having like a Magic Find set, like a separate Magic Find set. So I don't know. Maybe that's just lazy on my behalf. It's possible, but yeah, it's good. I like the Paragon changes. I was surprised that they were giving stats as well. But I suppose
I was surprised about that.
yeah, it's just a bit of extra incentive, and I suppose it means that a level 100 Paragon is going to be more powerful than a level 60, a fresh level 60 character.
I think only marginally. Like the addition, the per level stats are really nothing. It's like the difference will be one piece of gear's difference, I think, in terms of actual stats. An interesting thing to think with that, the fact that Paragon levels are separate, even though they're giving the same bonuses to normal levels on the normal stats side of things, is that I think when PvP rolls around, they're going to just remove everyone's Paragon levels for PvP, so that everyone's matched together, and the Paragon levels don't make any difference. So it'll just be everyone's level 60 then. So it'll remove that extra bonus there. I think that's the main reason for the mechanic being like that.
Yep.
Yeah, I disagree with ZiggyD on its level of importance. I think it makes a massive difference, and I disagree with you, Hugo, on the grounds of I actually don't like the 300% magic find cap.
Yeah.
I think if you want to go down that road, great, good for you. And if you've earned level 100 Paragon, then well, damn straight you deserve to find gear like nobody's business. And you're gonna at that stage you're gonna be so goddamn powerful that you don't need another stat.
Yeah.
So I can see this definitely being frustrating for people that that want to go down that road, and that sucks. In my opinion. But yeah, I got to see that as an outcome for PvP's sake, just ignoring Paragon levels. And the other thing I like about that is the first thing that kind of struck me when I read about this is like, well, I mean, really, they could have just said you don't get any new skills after level 60, and this would be the same. Except now you get Magic Find and Gold Find. So it's. It seems silly, they could have just made it, you actually have a level cap of 100, you just stop getting skills after 60. And they could have just, tweaked the numbers a bit instead of having 100 Paragon levels. So, that was the first sort of thing that struck me. But then I had the exact same thought. For PvP, you can take away Paragon levels, and that feels okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're only taking away the bonus, per se.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
I can give some extra data on Paragon levels if you want to, for people that might be interested. So I did some research, and a few guys on Reddit posted some interesting information about Paragon experience and how long it takes to level. So let's divide players into three categories. There's undergeared, which farm at about 10 mobs per minute, averagely geared, which are about 20 mobs per minute, and overgeared, which is 40 per minute. This is pretty arbitrary amounts here, but just mostly anecdotal evidence. But we've got to work with something. We have to have some base numbers. So based on that, farming Act 1 is undergeared is 2,166 hours to reach Paragon level 100. We've got averagely geared people in Act 1 at 1,083, and then overgeared at 541. So it's all halves and then halves again, depending obviously with the amount of mobs that you're killing. Act 2 undergeared is 1,659, so that's about a 500 difference between that, and then it halves and halves again. So that's an improvement. And Act 3 is undergeared in 1,447 hours, average at 723, and overgeared at 362. Now that's with a 30 best in slot ruby in your helmet. Leoric Signet can reduce that by another. How many percent is it, Pat?
Sorry, I missed that. I'm getting distracted by a restless baby.
Sorry. Right. How much percent experience was the Leoric Signet?
Oh, so that's 20 to 30%.
Okay, 20 to 30%. So you could get
30.
Potentially 30. That would be pretty expensive. But yeah, so potentially another 100 hours off that. So the quickest you could do it is around 200 hours. And, we might see some more wind barbs eventually doing that because they're pretty much topping the ladders at the moment. But the most interesting thing out of this is that the advice that if you want to farm the experience as fast as possible, you're best off doing it in a act that you are overgeared for, rather than struggling in a higher act. Just because you're going to clearing mobs more quickly is more important than clearing high experience mobs. So if you're overgeared for Act 2 and struggling, maybe occasionally dying in Act 3, then you should be farming Act 2, just for pure experience, not for fun. You should do what's fun, because 200 hours is still a long time.
And that lends itself to what's, in my opinion, always been the case with Act 1 being the best place to be, just because it's longer, you can maintain your nef stacks for longer, and it's more predictable than the other acts. So in terms of number of elites and stuff per minute, you can nail that much easier.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Plus, I think Act has a certain sort of charm to it. I enjoy it. I like killing zombies and skeletons.
Act 1. Well, I was talking to my brother about this, and he can farm wherever he feels like, and he definitely mixes it up. And I was thinking, I can totally mix it up now. Before, if I wanted to farm, it had to be Act 1. I wasn't so stressed because I felt it was the most efficient place anyways, but now I've got that choice. I could definitely farm Act 2 comfortably, and yeah, Act 1 I'll smash it, that's fine. And I think that's great. And I think that if you're sick of Act 1 because you've done 150 hours of it, then you can mix it up. And sure, there's always going to be that most efficient spot, but they've done a really good job in terms of giving us multiple sources of content that we can enjoy.
Yep.
Yeah, I think they tuned the experience in line with the patch as well for this as well.
Yeah,
so I think they did a really good job of it, tuning the Inferno experience payouts. I didn't see any data on Hell, because it'd be interesting to know what Act 3 Hell was like in terms of experience payouts, whether it was a big jump or not, because you could clear that really quickly even if you had gear that wasn't good enough for Act 1 Inferno. So I don't know, it'd be interesting to know that.
Did you say Act 3 Hell?
Yeah, Act 3 Hell. Oh no, Act 4 counts as a separate act in Hell, doesn't it? It's not
yeah.
Okay, so you'd be doing Act 4 Inferno.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, they're not paired up like Inferno is.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah, there was. I think there was a Reddit post on that one as well, saying you can be that it can be very, very efficient actually, but you miss out on that chance of the 63. So that's what you got to trade off for. So if experience is your only concern now, well, then you're probably at a level where you should be farming Act 3, because it's about how fast you can run from mob to mob, and has nothing to do with how long it takes you to kill it, because they all die instantly.
Yeah.
Cool. What else have we got to talk about with this patch?
Notice anything interesting with the market, Bet? Highlander?
You know what? The one thing I haven't had time to check is how Natalia's have gone post-patch. Because I'm sitting on a bunch. I'm not all that excited because I'm not all that concerned, because it's those old legacy Natalias do have that like I was discussing the other week, it will never be back. So I'm not so worried about what they are day one.
Too much.
But from a Fiery Brimstone perspective, they've fallen a lot. They're down to 135k now or something like that, which the speculators got screwed. And it was no buffs to Helm of Command, and none of the other ones were must-have items. That's what you get when you speculate on something that's going to be as ridiculous as a game patch. Yeah, so it sucks for some people, especially because it was above that price for so long. Like it was a high 100,000s, low 200,000s for so long, and people were just actively snapping them up. I saw one podcast a few weeks ago where it was like somebody was like, if you I'll nab any unique under 200k, and I don't know where he cashed out at. Maybe made a mint, but maybe he didn't. He was waiting out for post.
Maybe he was greedy.
Yeah. So I think that's it's interesting to see that at work. The other thing is just DPS is being pooed on as a stat.
Yeah.
It's just high DPS weapons, they're just devaluing, and they're going to keep devaluing really fast. One other interesting thing that's not quite market related, it only feels market related to me because I bought a nice two-hander on the auction house the other day. But this patch was a massive buff to enchantresses because of those two-handed weapons.
Yeah,
You
right.
can get tons more int now for her.
Yeah, exactly. Stacks more in. And she was already a lot of
Yeah,
people's favorite.
she was already really good.
I
Yeah.
don't think anyone actually uses the archer, the scoundrel.
I use the scoundrel.
So no one cool uses the
But yeah, no, she's better, definitely. She's definitely better than the scoundrel. Oh well.
Although now that everything seems to be getting that much easier, the charm ability isn't as critical as it
Yeah,
used to be.
it took a big nerf when they dropped the damage from Inferno mobs.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
was actually a patch a couple patches ago or something.
Yeah, so when they used to slay themselves so bloody efficiently. Actually, Cyanide's got a really good point. In chat, he uses the scoundrel for the crit hit chance, and that's sorry.
That's the best thing about it, really.
Yeah, that's right.
He's also pretty good for CC in terms of cold arrows. If you put the split on him and give him a cold bow, he'll slow everything. So I find that pretty handy.
Yeah,
it's an interesting one.
I'll mix it up between the Templar just for another tank, or the Enchantress, because crits don't impact me at all, really.
Yeah. On the market, I've been watching the price of gold since the launch of the patch, and it went down to shortly after it went down to $1 per million. And for those who don't know, they changed the price floor structure. So now the minimum you can sell a million for is 25 cents. So that's like I don't know what the minimum is, $1 for you. So you need to sell a couple million to reach the minimum. But yeah, it went down to $1 per mil, and now it's gone all the way back up to $1.80 per mil. So that's really, really weird. I'm not quite sure what's going on there, because I feel like the hype's sort of winding down a little bit now on legendaries and things like that. But a lot of the rest of the market that I'm not involved in, the non-hardcore market, the Reddit reading every day market, must be still pretty hyped about legendaries because they're still buying a lot of gold, and it's been around $1.80 the past couple of days that I've checked. So it's pretty crazy. I don't know. Any thoughts on that, Highlander?
No, I see that going down.
Yeah, eventually it's going to go down to nothing, but I'm surprised how long it's staying there.
And look, it's always going to go down because, sure, there's people back interested in the game and all that, but, I think that I do really feel that this is a bit of a honeymoon period, and, this is people are enchanted with the game again, but, once you stop seeing a Paragon level for 2 5-hour sessions straight, you're going to start being disenchanted with those Paragon levels. They're not going to feel as cool anymore. And, it's still a definite improvement, but I think we've got more people than we'll have in a couple of weeks from now or in a month. And then secondly, if that, don't forget that, people can always, if people are finding gold farming's really successful, they'll just go buy more accounts and get more accounts and get more bots and more bots and more bots. And the more successful it is, the more bots there will be. So as long as it's remotely profitable, there will be more bots.
There's also a lot of arbitrage happening. I noticed a lot of people posting for actually like 25 cents and people snapping up real quick and reselling it and actually pushing. I think that's actually pushed the price up a fair bit. I expected it to go down much faster than it did. But yeah, so pretty much to anyone that's watching, if you have a lot of gold you want to sell, now is probably your best chance. I don't think it's going to get any higher than this ever. So,
Cool.
it's overvalued.
There was a question in the chat from, and I hope I'm going to pronounce this correctly, Murdoch. Sorry. He said, do you think the Paragon system will need to be expanded in the future in order to maintain people's interest, or do you think they'll need to add a ladder system with resets? We kind of touched on this before, but the idea of the Paragon system being expanded is an interesting idea. What do you guys think of that?
I think that would be super cheesy if they did that, if they just tacked another 100 levels on. And I think that people would get fed up with that. I'd get fed up with that. I don't know, it's a really cool system, but it's only very, very temporary. In terms of adding a ladder, the only thing I could really see adding a ladder is like an external separate ladder, maybe like a hardcore ladder would be really cool, where after you died or after your hardcore, after that ladder finished, everything was just pushed back into the normal hardcore mode. because having a hardcore ladder that's constantly wiped, it's like maybe 2 weeks long or something like that. It can get really competitive and really fun, and the auction house isn't killing it because the auction house never really has a chance to get off the ground. Even if you have it there like 2 weeks, the auction house doesn't really flood or anything like that. That's a ladder system I could see, and that would add a long-term appeal to the game, especially for me. I'd love doing that, man. Every 2 weeks I'd play a new hardcore character. I pretty much do that anyway because my hardcore characters keep dying.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see a ladder system like that, but as Pat was saying earlier, you can't just put a ladder on the current system because of the real money auction house and everything.
Yep. Well, it'd be interesting to see what they're going to do with expansions, because if the idea was to add levels with the expansion like they've done with World of Warcraft expansions, then I'm not sure exactly how that's going to affect Paragon levels.
Yeah, this doesn't mean that much, but they have said in the past a couple of times that they are never going to increase the level cap in an expansion.
Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They could change their mind on that, like they added Paragon levels. Like if you consider it increase the level cap, but that's what they have said, that they don't intend to increase the level cap with expansions, just add an extra act of content or something. Extra characters.
Cool. Highlander, what do you think of that?
I don't think to the point of the question, it was are they going to be expanded in order to maintain people's interest? And I think they've made it quite clear that this is only one part of the puzzle, and it's definitely a great part of the puzzle in its own right. It's not going to maintain people's interest in its own right, so it's not going to be. I don't foresee it being expanded itself. Keep in mind, if you'd asked me 2 months ago, I would have said I don't see them changing that either. But I definitely don't see the solution being ladder systems with resets. Like I said before, I really hope they do have ladder type systems. I just think that they just need to build upon the existing systems and not have resets per se, and not have ways of making two classes of characters. And as long as they do that, there's a lot of ways that they can build competitiveness into Diablo without doing that. Mm-hmm. And I hope they go down those roads, because that's so much fun, especially when it's random and weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. There's so many things they could do, and that was one of the things I've said it a lot of times. It's kind of scary that they haven't thought of these things before, like all of the cool proc chance stats on legendaries. You can't help but ask yourself, how come they didn't think of this before, and there's a million things they could do, like adding new events and all that kind of stuff. So yeah,
I think I think they have had thought of a lot of these things. Like, I think they probably even thought of the Paragon system, maybe even before a lot of the community started asking for it. But I guess time constraints and stuff like that. I know they had like 10 years, but I think they only really started working on it in the last year.
Yeah,
So,
that's what it seems like. It seems like, yeah, they haven't been working on it for as long as they've really had. I mean, I'm sure most people know that the game was started and then halfway through the project disbanded and started again from scratch, and that's why it was so long. But yeah, it seems like it's a project that was slapped together pretty quick, to be honest. So yeah, did you guys have anything else to say? I think that's pretty much it for this episode. Anything else you guys wanted to mention before we close it up?
No, I'm having a lot of fun. I'm seeing more of my friends list populated at all times, which is good. I'm really stoked, and I'm really excited to see where they go from here. The fact that it's a few months after release now, and they're making major system changes and major improvements. That's great, and you don't always see that. So big props to Blizzard for that. Well done.
That's right. We were going to do the favorite part of the patch and least favorite part of the patch thing. So one of you can take that away while I think about it for a little bit, or are we all thinking about it right now?
Oh, okay.
Mm.
For me, it was just again the straight up difficulty nerf. Um,
Yeah.
I liked that they brought trash mobs and elite/champions closer together in terms of difficulty, but I dislike that they reduced the overall difficulty. And with with something like that, you can't really reduce the difficulty of the elites and champions without reducing the overall difficulty, because the difficulty is kind of like at a high water mark. You know, the most difficult thing in an act is the difficulty level for that act. Or farming is the most difficult thing you'll find when farming. So I don't see how else they could have done it without lowering overall difficulty, unless they just straight up buffed trash mobs.
Yep.
And then buffed up us and items alongside with that. That would be the only way to really do it. But yeah, I still see there's obviously issues with that as well. Nonetheless, I'm a little bit sad that Inferno got easier.
Yep.
But
Okay.
on the flip side, on my list of favorite things, after Witch Doctor casting animations and my pets being viable, just pretty much the Paragon system I think is really good, and I really like it. And especially if they do what ZiggyD mentioned before about removing them for PvP, that's perfect.
Perfect.
Yep. Okay. Ziggy?
So what's my favorite? Trail of Cinders. but seriously, I think my brain says the Paragon system. Like, I think from like a thoughtful point of view, I think that's the most interesting addition to the patch and the biggest game change. But on the more emotional level, I reckon the legendary changes and adding flavor to legendaries, it just warms my heart. So beautiful. It should have been like that from the start, but I don't know how you could ever screw something like that up. But
ouch.
That's making legendaries interesting. They're interesting now. There's some pretty cool ones down there, and there's some pretty, maybe even some exploitable ones, which is cool. There needs to be some exploitable ones in there. Have you seen the puzzle ring? Yeah, you can stand on fire, and that'll summon a goblin. So I don't know. It's cool. It's cool stuff. Legendaries are definitely my emotional favorite. Just happy to see them fixed. Happy to see them get some love.
I'm going to have to YouTube the puzzle ring. I haven't seen that in action. Yes.
I've only read about it on Reddit. A guy was testing it against mobs, and he later found out you could stand on fire and it summons it pretty quickly. You got it three times from one skeleton. You got it 3 times in an hour, so it'd be a lot faster from anything that ticked a lot faster.
Yep. Cool. There's so many things that are awesome about this patch, so it's pretty hard to choose one thing that's your favorite. But I suppose it would be the legendaries. I think that was the most exciting for me when I saw it. Whether it stands the test of time, I think, like you were saying, your mind says the Paragon leveling system. But the legendaries were definitely the most exciting. So, yeah, I think that's it, really.
One thing I really want to mention that I'm more desperate for now than ever is a preset build changer. Because especially I'm doing all these different things now, and I'm trying to test new builds and stuff like that, and it's just I really want that preset build changer. It's really annoying.
Yep. Sometimes it's hard to remember exactly all the skills you had, with the last build. Keep changing them and stuff. Maybe that's just me.
Might just be you.
Okay. Cool.
Alright, we're done.
Yep.
I reckon.
So that is all for episode number 18 of the Diablo Herald. I am Hoigo, and if you want to see any of our previous episodes or future episodes, you can see them on youtube.com/Diabloherald. You can watch them being recorded live on Twitch TV/Diabloherald. That usually happens on a Monday night at 7 p.m.-ish. And that's Australian Eastern Standard Time. So GMT plus 11, I think, or 10, depending if we're in daylight savings. Yeah. And you can also tweet at me at Diabloherald, or send me an email, diabloherald@gmail.com. If you have any questions or ideas for the show, please do, because it's always good to hear people's thoughts and get some interaction going. So, Highlander, tell us about your stuff.
YouTube.com/ScottishMoo, do a market watch series. Didn't do last week. Can't do this week tonight. We'll hopefully do this week on Thursday, but yeah, it might be a little bit of a dry run. So sorry to those guys who are subscribed for that, but it's definitely not forgotten about. I'm still tracking everything. Just the video is the most time-consuming part and can't be done on a lunch break at work. And you can follow me on Twitter at HighlanderSC.
Cool. Ziggy?
I'm on Twitter and YouTube, ZiggyD StarCraft on both. I make almost daily Diablo 3 videos. If I'm not making a Diablo 3 video, I'm making a Path of Exile video. So if you like either of those games, check them out. Yeah, that's it.
Cool. Alright, well, thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed this show. Bye.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
Thanks, guys. See you later.